teleconferencing for a few weeks now.
Yeah, it's been a little wonky lately.
Who's hitting the drinks early?
Moi.
Well, it is Friday.
And it's 1 o'clock.
Hold on, Jeff. Let me just get my little flask out. Make sure I'm probably ready for the event.
Only a true friend would buy you a flask like that.
Yeah. After burning a quarter of an inch of rubber off your prized Corvette, and he still gets me a flask. It's amazing.
All right. One of these days you'll make the fatal mistake of leaving a high-priced car in my possession, and I'll return the favor.
Yeah. No, I fully understand that's going to happen. So I don't think you'll be my first choice.
You just did it first, right?
Yeah, exactly. He told me to take it out for a couple of turns. Make sure.
I wonder how good of an e-brake I can do in a Dodge Durango SRT8.
Yeah.
Yeah, but a couple of turns in a vet, that takes some skill. Those things are made to go straight.
They are made to go straight.
Yeah.
And frankly, they don't go straight very well if you give them too much too fast.
It came back with no scratches. So.
What year's your vet?
I have an 01. 01 C5 Resto Mod. Just turned 13,000 miles.
That's right. I've seen that one.
Yeah.
I thought maybe you got a new one.
No, I like the new ones, but I want to give them time to run and see how they perform. I've heard good things. They look cool.
What's the family car now? Because I can't seem to keep up.
Well, mom has a Tahoe, and I'm moving around. I got rid of the Panamera, and now I'm in an Escalade for the next few months.
You already got rid of the Porsche?
Porsche's gone. Sold the Porsche. Now I have a black Escalade.
Sold both.
You had that for like 2 months.
No,
Guys, 7 seconds.
I had the Panamera for a whole year.
Yeah.
Was it a year?
Yeah.
Yep.
You're fully out there now.
We're sitting here talking about Jeff's many vehicle purchases.
Yeah, no, that's a fun conversation. Let's screw this social stuff and talk about cars.
We can do a whole hour. Zoned.
If we talk about cars, we'll probably get in less trouble too.
Yeah,
true.
Probably.
Well, who wants to kick this off?
Jeff, we've got Jeff, welcome back. You've been on, I believe, once before, and John, welcome aboard.
Thanks for having me.
You got it. Jeff and John, why don't you take a quick second, just give us a little bit of a background.
Sure. I'm Jeff Clark. I'm the president of Social Dealer. I've been in
Jeff
the
Clark.
automotive.
No one really cares about you, Jeff Clark. I was talking to John.
No, you're right. No one really does.
Where's the gaff?
25 years at this. Been on the vendor side for the vast majority of that, and happy to join you two today. It's always good to see these familiar faces. So thanks for having us.
We're always glad to see you, Jeff, because you make us feel good about what's still left on our heads. At least me. Kirshner, you just can't compete with him.
No, I can't.
No. That's fun. Too fun.
And John, welcome to Refresh Friday.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I've sat on both sides of the fence now for quite a while after 30 years in the car business, and everything from selling cars to sales manager to e-commerce director to IT director to general manager, and on the other side of the fence, digitally helping dealers maximize what they can do online for their dealers, right, and really grow their business. So I'm happy to be here, excited to talk about social, and thanks again for having us on.
John, what
You got it.
I was trying to remember. We met when I was at Checkered Flag. Of course, Jeff Clark. We actually all four of us. All three of you. I met while at Checkered Flag. But,
Yeah.
John, what I couldn't remember what you were doing back then. This would have been early 2000s.
Yeah. So we actually did meet at Checkered Flag. So I was working at a top 25 dealer group called Warnock Automotive Group. And you originally had just put in the first ever centralized call accounting software for multiple rooftop dealer group. And we were very excited to figure out how to do that as well. We had 11 stores, and we had phone systems everywhere, and we heard about this dealership called Checkered Flag that figured it out. So my buddy Bill Hausman and I, we jumped in a Crown Vic because we were the police car headquarters of New Jersey, and we made record time down to Virginia Beach. And you graciously accepted us in and showed us around the Checkered Flag headquarters. So that was, I feel like that had to be 12 or 15 years ago, maybe, right?
Yeah. And then Clark, you were ahead of your time with this great little system that allowed us to do this buy a car in your pajamas campaign. It was a bidding software with an algorithm behind it, and it allowed customers to go in and negotiate against the website, really, which was crazy in the 2001, 2002 territory.
It was, you're right, it was well ahead of its time. And it's interesting to me today to start to see some of those attributes now becoming more and more popular. It was a difficult concept for certain dealers to conceptualize. What do you mean I don't know who the customer is? But at the time, we believed that was one of the biggest problems that consumers had in engaging dealers was a trust factor. So they didn't want to give you their name, their email address, their phone number, but they were forced to register with the system in order to be able to negotiate on the vehicles. Unfortunately, the downturn in the economy and the difficulty in raising cash to continue to fund a startup was probably the demise of the business. But no, it was fun, and it was definitely one of the things that sparked my entrepreneurial spirit and has kept me in this game for so long.
It was fun working with you on that project.
Oh, thank you. We had a lot of fun, and I would say Checkered Flag did it better than anybody. We had our own call to action, our own logos, and got a significant amount of engagement from it. So maybe someone will take that idea and run with it again.
Well, it's funny. It worked really well for the brand. I think you're going to be talking a little bit about today. The BMW shopper was all over that, at least for us.
Yeah.
Why BMW?
I think that, so this is going back a few years. So BMW, this would have been, for any of the car people out there, this would have been the first of the Bangle years. So you had the Bangle butt on the 5 Series. You had the horrendous 7 Series that everyone hated, and that they then turned around and started to love. But it seemed to attract a more technologically savvy customer. And you saw that customer move when Audi adopted Italian styling. So we had BMW and Audi, and we saw that movement, that migration of the customer, which made Audi more technologically savvy, and you could do more things with your website with them and other digital retailing type stuff. If we want to throw out a really hated term. And then, and we at Checkered Flag never had Mercedes. So Jeff, you'd have to be the one to say when you started to see that customer.
Yeah, I do think that one of the things that we learned from that, Alex, when we were in that project with you, that we definitely attracted the more technologically savvy consumer. This was really pre all the bid and auction sites, right? but consumers loved the idea of being able to negotiate, and they felt like they could do so without fear and intimidation. And they really could, because in the background, we had a hidden floor price, or what I used to affectionately call the blow you out the door price. But we allowed the consumer to negotiate with that without wasting the time of the dealership. If the consumer was sincere, we'd take a deposit and we had a deal. And if they weren't, then it didn't waste the time of the dealership. But more importantly, a lot like what we see from Facebook and others today, we were capturing data. We were capturing consumer behavior. What were the bid increments that they were doing? Just like in social, what were the additional pages or actions that they were taking that were leading us to better understand what their behavior would be and what their propensity to buy a car was.
Yeah, it was helpful to, if I recall, and I'm going back and I'm starting to get old, so my memory is not so good anymore either. But if I recall, it was starting to set the tone for how you should price your vehicles based on the way consumers were interacting with them.
Yeah, the data
this
that
is
was
far before V-Auto and
long before any of those systems existed. This was a way for us to capture information. And I think not so much today, but if you turn back the hands of time 15, 18 years ago, which is what this was, there was a belief, and I think in some cases there still is today, that dealers make $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, $10,000, $15,000 on a car. And that's just not the case. If you've worked in the retail world, you know what the cars really cost, right? But the consumer doesn't see that and they don't believe that. So it was a really great indicator for us to begin to understand just how much profit the consumer believed was in the deal. And still today, we fight that fight now with pricing being more transparent, invoice pricing and rebates and other things being readily available at your fingertips. That paradigm has shifted some. But 15 to 18 years ago, that was cutting edge stuff. And, that was us trying to think outside the box as to how to be better retailers long before, digital retailing was a thing. I mean, I remember the tagline for Checkered Flag. It's so easy, you can even make a deal in your pajamas. And it was successful. That's one of those entrepreneurial ventures that I really wish would have had more runway and would have had better timing.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back in the Wayback Machine, see if I can find. You guys keep going, but I just want to look in the old archive hard drive here just to see if there was a.
Listen, don't pull up any pictures of me with my Camaro mullet back in the day. Nobody needs to see that. Your audience doesn't want to see that.
Well, business in the front and party in the back.
That's right.
I forget about the Wayback Machine.
Well, the Wayback Machine for me is an archive folder on my hard drive.
Oh.
Personal Wayback.
Yes. But I've got some old Checkered Flag stuff in here. I was going to pull up and see if I could find that character who was.
I'm sure somewhere I've got images of it.
I thought it was a photo of Jeff and his PJs laying in bed.
Yeah, with the mullet.
Yeah.
Now that's golden. If we can find that, that's like the Babe Ruth rookie card in pristine condition there.
Well, but if you think about it, had we have had social media at that time, how much more powerful of a message would that have been? How much more could we have connected with consumers and shared with them that there was an easier way to buy a car? The struggle had become, you had to come to Checkered Flag's website to know about it, other than the advertising within the immediate market. And I think Checkered Flag did a great job. If you look today, social media is everywhere. And now we have a better chance through organic social and through paid ads to tell dealers about those types of tools and why we can make the car shopping process so much easier and better for them.
Well, I was going to ask what got you into social media? I mean, no offense, Jeff or John, but when I look at you two guys, the first thing that I definitely do not think about is here's two gentlemen that have got to be knocking it dead in social media.
No offense taken. I will tell you, I fought tooth and nail not to get involved in social media throughout my career. I remember when it started getting really big in the dealer on days, and I would catch flack for not having a Facebook page or, posting here and posting there. And I said, frankly, no one cares what I eat, right? No one cares about these things. I certainly didn't care. Having spent the vast majority of my career on the website side and then morphing into paid search and display and all the tools that dealers used. And one of the things that I was self-admittedly resistant against was social media, because I felt social media was a lot of noise. And frankly, there's a good amount of noise in social media. But the opportunity came up to be a part of the organization, and our parent company has so many different great tools and solutions that really kind of allowed for dealers to do more based on just what their comfort levels were with omni-channel advertising. There it is. Make my deal, baby. So
we're gonna have to show that to the Make My Deal people who made that digital retailing solution.
Yep. No, that's funny. You should share that with me. I'll get that imposed and stick it up on my wall. Bring back some memories. But anyway, Jeff, to finish answering your question, I had the opportunity to join the Social Dealer team and loved what they were doing. They were the first company, formal company in the social media space, been in existence now some 12 years. And it was really like drinking from a fire hose, I got to tell you, coming in here and not really understanding where social media was with automotive dealers. And I think we're still somewhat figuring it out in the marketplace. I believe dealers are utilizing it, but they're treating it more of a check the box solution, right? Yes, I have it, but I don't really know what it does for me. And so as I took over the reins here, one of the people that I thought best to bring in was someone with vast retail experience. And John had worked for me in a couple of my other companies, and he was a natural person to tap in because, like me, we're going to jump in and we're going to figure it out, good, bad, or indifferent. And so it's been a thrill to have him here and kind of start this course together for the last couple of years.
What have you guys seen in the last couple of years? Really, what have you seen in 2020, of course, with everything that's gone down, COVID and all that good stuff? What are some of the changes or just, I guess, some things that have really stuck out in social media with car dealerships? Because, I mean, you still have a lot of the OEMs are still pushing it onto dealerships, but the reality is, I mean, you go to a dealership Facebook page, it's I think we had a short window there at one point where I think dealerships were figuring out, really dialing it in, especially on the organic side. I think most of them right now are still have figured it out or working with a company that's figured out the paid side. But more on the organic side, like how important is it? Is it important to even have it if you've got a solid paid structure down? And if so, like, what are some of the things that are working? I know it's just a bunch of different questions at once, but yeah, we can just go back to the original. It's like, what have you guys seen here lately that's really, really working?
Yeah, I could probably grab that one, Jeff. So a couple of things. One is my story getting a social dealer is one that I think is important. So although I had vast automotive background and digital background and retail background and vendor background, I was actually working in a dealer group that was surrounded by larger dealer groups that had very large marketing budgets. And the stores that I was part of to become a general manager of had a very much smaller budget. And in order to compete with those other dealers, I needed to find a media that could then work for me because I didn't have the big budget for all the other media types. And I kind of tore a page out of Joe Castle's book and said, why don't you use social media to then get your dealerships out there and use the lanes that nobody else is using, A, because they're cheap, because remember, I didn't have a lot of budget, and B, not a lot of people knew how to make it work. So that's really how we started to formulate changing the culture of the store and, quite frankly, changing the P&L, the balance sheet of that store, right? How to go from one color to the other color because I didn't have those big budget figures. So that's really where I cut my teeth in social media, real time, real world. and then moved on to Social Dealer to work with Jeff and really help other dealers do the same thing. So that kind of answers the question, what have I seen change between then and now? A lot and a very little at the same time. A lot meaning that Facebook is constantly changing. Even on the Auto Marketing Collective yesterday, there were some changes that Facebook made that severely helped dealers, right? They'll impact a dealer greatly today. But they still have a silo out there. There's still a organic silo and a paid social advertising silo. And the question is, should you do both? And from our perspective at Social Dealer, where we see a lot of clients doing both really, really well, their ad dollars become much more efficient. So for us, it's never been, should I do paid and forget about organic, or do organic and not worry about paid? We found a really great use or business use case that says, if we do the right thing for the dealers and you help them optimize their channels, right, and you post an engaging content onto their organic channels, and you have custom audiences on paid social advertising, will the dealer benefit from that? And I can tell you the answer is 100% yes. And if you take a look back, this is the old adage, do I do SEO or do I not do SEO, right? And do I do Google AdWords and not worry about my SEO? And I think for the people on this call who have done both, they'll see the benefit in SEO, although it's a longer term play. But at the end, they had a much greater success and less Google AdWords spend because they played that game early. And I don't think that's any different in Facebook today. Think of Facebook organic as SEO of search, right? And paid as paid Google AdWords. You just have to do both really well to become really efficient at it. So hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, it does. Good analogy. Makes sense.
Yeah.
So what's changed this year in these landscapes? I have been told, and maybe you guys can confirm this, that likes and things like that don't really matter anymore. They used to affect the algorithm, right?
Used to, yeah. But if you think about it, it's the path of least resistance, right? So if we're all sitting around watching TV and looking on our phone, on our news feed, the path of least resistance, where I don't really have to be too involved to put myself out there, would be the like, right? That's just the like. So Facebook recognized this and said, well, if that's the path of least resistance, but I'm looking for engagement, I'm looking for people on pages to engage with those stores, does the like really factor into that, or should the like really become a vanity metric? Because the ones that really mean that you're engaging with me are the ones that will say, yes, I am going to take the time out of my day and publicly comment on those posts, or share it with my friends and my family. I feel strongly enough about it to share with my friends and family. That's where the real engagement starts to really play in. So dealers will ask me, John, if you had your choice between a lot of likes or a lot of engagement, likes, shares, and comments, what would you do? And my question back to the dealer is, do you want volume or do you want gross? And they'll probably tell me they want both, which is the age-old question. How do I get volume and gross, right? But if I had to pick one, I'm going to take gross, right? I want the money in the house, right? And the money in the house is comments and shares, right? So that's a big significant change that comes around not only through Facebook and Instagram and Google My Business and LinkedIn and Twitter, but just a philosophy within inside of organic social media, which is, how do you best follow the playbook that's out there as a dealer to maximize my organic activity, but not do too much, because that requires a lot of time, to then maximize my paid social advertising dollar that I'm putting into the Facebook ad network, right? So I would say certainly a lot of changes happening there. Lots of changes, as everybody on this call knows, inside of Facebook, right? Obviously they made the announcement yesterday. You can now add your inventory as a tab, right? It links out to your marketplace. You can add vehicles as a tab, right? But that doesn't mean you should be prohibited from adding your own custom tabs. What about scheduled service? What if I want to have inventory new, inventory used, and I want to schedule service from Facebook? Can you do that? Yeah, you have to do that. So my always goal is how to keep the online consumer engaged at your store, without having to go back to Google to find you, or hopefully not find another dealer, right? And you can do a lot of that inside of Facebook or Instagram today if you just follow the playbook.
Does Social Dealer offer some type of, do you guys offer a service to help dealerships manage their inventory on the marketplace? And if so, because that's one thing I'm struggling with here at dealership, is linking our dealership Facebook page to our marketplace listings.
Yeah, it's obviously marketplace has been around for a long time, right? And for a while we thought new cars was gonna get into that game, but it really just stayed a used car classified portal. So now with the new vehicles tab on Facebook page, you can now link over directly to marketplace. You know, as of yesterday, it was beta test for a little bit, but now it's public. If you're a car dealer Facebook page, it'll automatically go there. But remember, what's not on the marketplace is new cars, right? So now we have to add the tab for new cars, right? So we make sure we can, get the visibility on those that we need, the marketability on those. So, yeah, we obviously have a marketplace solution that's been out there since day one. We are a marketplace provider. You must be a preferred provider in order to do marketplace listings. And we have a lot of dealers that will call us up and say, hey, it's not working X, Y, and Z. Can you help us figure it out? And we always start with foundational level stuff, which is, let's see what you're doing today. Let's make sure that you haven't been hijacked, because we see a lot of that going on today. Facebook, classified listings are getting hijacked. Let's make sure you have that all. So a lot of times we'll do what's called an assessment for a store, and it'll look at all these various components like Facebook and Instagram and Google My Business and YouTube, but also the marketplace. And we'll see if you have listings on the marketplace. And if you do, that's great. But if we stop there, you may not find that if you actually click on the send message to dealer button, that's actually been hijacked by another party, right? Because that's happening out there today. So it looks like your ad, it's got your watermark, it's got your car, it looks everything like that until I go to click on the message us button for the dealer. And when you click on
purpose of someone doing that?
Yeah, so it's happening more and more. My recommendation.
I've never heard of that.
Will it take you to a Nigerian fortune?
Yeah, please wire money in this amount. It's easy to figure out. So what Jeff and I do and the team does is we put together these swim lanes that say daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, some things that a dealership should check on as it pertains to social media, right? One of them, quarterly, is to go and actually physically click that button and make sure that those messages are still going to either your SMS or to your live chat provider.
Yeah, I think I'll do that once a week.
Yeah, it's Jeff knows the story. We got a call from a dealer, said, hey, it's not working. Facebook's not sending marketplace, the leads aren't working anymore. And I said, well, were they ever working? And he said, yeah. So we looked at it and I clicked on it and it went to another third party that would then call the dealer up and say, hey, I have a lead for that vehicle that you're trying to sell. Would you like to buy this lead from me? And I went back to my days as a retail guy and I was like, that just makes no sense.
No.
That's a new way to get in market shoppers.
I can't imagine there'd be enough volume for someone to come up with that type of service. Like, I don't get it.
If you hijack a whole marketplace, think about it, Jeff. If you got like all of Northern Virginia, then you can turn around and be like, hey, Honda dealer over here and Ford dealer over here. I got a whole bunch of in-market shoppers. You want to buy them?
Yeah. Exclusive for your vehicle. Yeah.
Frankly, guys, dealers are so busy. I mean, part of what John says and part of what we do here, and we hope your listeners and anyone who hears this will listen to, take the time to actually have someone independently look at what you're doing. We watch all the time dealers very proudly say, I'm constantly posting. Oh, that sets off an alarm with me. When I hear that, are you posting too much? And yes, ladies and gentlemen, there is a thing as posting too much, right? There has to be an appropriate cadence, right? If you're posting 3 times a day, 7 days a week, guess what your followers are going to do? They're going to unfollow you, right? They don't, it's not about all the time. Do
you guys have proof of that? I mean, have you been able to look at analytics and be able to say That's definitely 100% sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So
Okay.
So inside of our platform, we record things historically as a trend to see how often we post, and then whether you've unfollow or unfriend certain pages, right? So we can basically tell if we post too much inventory and we start to see the followers check out, we know we're doing too much inventory. To combat that, you should be posting very local information along with your inventory and your service specials, right? Which is really quite simple to do, but you just need to have the tools to go be able to know who has the highest, business followers in your town, right? So, is it always about selling a car and servicing a car socially? It probably shouldn't be, right? Should it be selling a car, servicing car? Here's a great restaurant. What's your favorite ice cream? Here's what's going on in town. Here's some things to do. Sure. Charity events, right? So all those things together combined are what makes a really solid social strategy. And an easy way to look at that is to do the homework yourself. So go to your Facebook page and look at the top 10 posts, right? 10 posts, and write down how many are non-automotive related, right? So out of 10, let's say 10 should not be all automotive. And then go through that list and find out how many likes, shares, and comments you have, right?
Mhm.
And if you have more likes than shares and comments, then you might say to yourself, we need to change that around and come up with a better strategy. But more importantly, set yourself up with a KPI for every kind of post. Inventory post should have how many shares, how many likes, how many comments, right? A local brand awareness post, a local engagement post should have the same KPIs. No different than you look at your doc every day, right? You want to look at your gross was from yesterday, right? And front end, back end, F&I gross, right? Look at the same thing. Because if we're doing a lot of organic posting and we're not getting the engagement we want, we're in no danger of getting any more social followers that really want to engage with us, right? So set yourself, and it's one of the things we talk about a lot with dealers is through the educational part of setting up these KPIs and these benchmarks, not only in social, but for reputation management. How many service reviews should I get a month? How many sales reviews should I get a month? How many should go to Facebook? How many should go to Google? How many should go to DealerRefresh? How many should go to cars.com, right? Mm-hmm. If you know what that number is, and Jeff and I know what that number is, then you just check your numbers against that benchmark and you say, wow, I did a great job, or I have some more work to do.
Is there a sweet spot from 4-car dealerships that you've seen across your platform? Is there sort of a sweet spot for how many posts a dealership, and have you been able to track like what seems, or what type of posts do most people get the most engagement from?
Yeah, you're right on the mark there, Jeff. I can tell you. So, provided the dealer is doing okay, meaning they just need a little bit more help, about 3 to 4 posts a week will make sense. If a dealer is struggling with social media, or they haven't had a really great presence or engagement in the past, it's probably going to take us a few more posts every week to get the push behind it to happen. So, somewhere between 3 to 4, 4 to 5. You certainly don't need a post every day or multiple times a day. We've got lots of folks who will say, I want 14 posts a week. Okay, but why? The metrics don't show that. In fact, the metrics will go to hurt you. And when it comes to which ones they engage the most on, goes back to the other conversation. We could do inventory posts, new and used. We could do service specials, right? We could do that all day long. We could do, here's my vehicle delivery photo. And we'll talk about how to do that the right way in a second. But in between all that, the ones that get the most engagement, the ones that people want to find out about you as being part of the community with, are the community posts, right? So, for example, do you set up events organically in your Facebook page? So when I go on my phone and say, hey, honey, what do you want to do this weekend? She goes, I don't know. I go to Facebook and it says, oh, events near me. Oh, this dealer happens to have a buyback event or an upgrade event or whatever the case, ASPCA dog event at the store. Okay, great. Maybe we'll stop by and swing there, right? So there's things that you can do to really help yourself and grow.
What do you want to do this weekend, babe? Hey, let's go visit car dealerships.
Yeah, well, listen, I need a new car and I need a dog. So you got dogs and cars. Let's make it work, right?
Yeah.
But John makes a good point. Think about the charitable connections you have in your community. We're coming out of No Shave November, right? So most dealers that I know in my 2.5 decades of doing this are incredibly philanthropic, right? But they don't want to brag about it, and I don't blame them. However, the community wants to know, the community wants to understand, and things will draw people to a dealership. Nothing like a charity event, nothing like a classic car show, nothing like a dog adoption event, something that gives them a reason to get out and to do something. And what we try to do as advertisers is we want to help you sell and service more cars, right? But so much about the lifestyle of that product is missed. Having owned BMWs and Porsches and Corvettes and other vehicles, there's communities and sub-communities within those cars, right? So BMW owners love BMW, right? M owners especially, right? Move to Porsche, move to trucks and to Jeeps and to other things. There's that connects and resonates with people. So whether it's No Shave November or Breast Cancer Awareness Month or whatever, those are all things that have immense value to the community, and it helps them understand that you're more than just a retail facility. And I think what we're trying to do is to help them find other things to connect and talk to the consumer about instead of a $299 lease on a Camry, right? Because if you're leasing at $299, so is everyone else in the market.
The struggle with that a lot of times is just getting upper management on board to participate in things like that. They typically just don't see the value in it. If you were working with a dealership that wanted to do maybe host some type of different social events, grassroots events at the dealership, and of course the GM or owner just really wasn't into it, is there any type of metrics that you can use to show that this is actually working?
Yeah, let their daughter do it.
You opened Pandora's box there, didn't you? That's a whole different show we need to talk about.
Yeah, there you go.
Actually, Jeff and Alex, you know what we do? We encourage those dealers to talk to dealers that are on our service that have run these events and why their event was unique and why it was special and why it worked for them. Not every event is going to work for every store in every market, right? If you're closer to a military base, oftentimes your military appreciation or first responder appreciations are key. I mean, we do it in some of our advertising. We saw it during COVID, right? We put specials out. If you were a first responder, and let's be honest, in certain states, dealerships were shut down. I think in Pennsylvania, the only way you could get your vehicle serviced was unless you were a first responder, unless you could prove that you were a first responder, right? So I think what I would encourage people listening to this to think about, this may not be the last pandemic. This may not be the last national crisis that we run into. And what we learned during COVID and continue to learn through COVID, social media usage went through the roof. Average consumption time was 2.6 hours a day pre-COVID, right? During COVID, we've cranked up to more than 6 hours per day, right? 6 hours per day, people are on social media. So that's where they're consuming information, they're sharing, they're engaging. So we have to have a plan and we have to have a contingency plan. The other thing I would caution people of is people see the value and end up learning how much social can do for them once they begin to get themselves educated. Please do not make the mistake of shutting off all your other channels of advertising. I've watched dealers that have gotten frustrated with the cost of where a lot of paid search has gone today on Google and Bing. And yes, it's gotten expensive.
A lot of dealerships have gotten out of paid search.
Well, and I would caution against that. You can slow it down, you can back it off, but if you pull the plug completely, you're going to see a negative effect to it, right? Consumers are about consistency. If they see you in paid ads, if they see you on social, the biggest thing here is having brand consistency, the look, the feel, and the message to resonate across all those channels. And if you do that, you're going to see success from it. I see some dealers absolutely overspending, without a doubt, right? But yet they feel like, hey, I'm spending this much money and my sales are up. But it gets back to attribution and it gets back to the ability. And look, Social Dealer will never, ever tell you that we're responsible for that car sale. What we will tell you is that we contributed to that sale. because we look at so many components of what our advertising does and how it resonates, right? It might be that Facebook ad that puts them over the edge, right? But that Facebook ad might just very well be the thing that makes them go to the manufacturer's site and start researching that model. The last vehicle I bought, I will tell you, was not on my radar to purchase. I saw a Facebook ad. It
Jeff,
looked
you
cool.
buy a car every 6 months. Of course it wasn't on your radar.
That's on the long play.
This is not an intervention for Jeff and his bad car buying habit.
Maybe
we can make it into one.
But I think what I want to caution, if you're a GM, if you're a dealer principal, and you're listening to this, take the time to stop. Have your social media evaluated. Make sure that your channels are properly optimized. Most of the time, and I do mean more than 50% of the time, we take over an account and we go to set it up. It is an absolute you-know-what show. There are tabs missing. There are so many things wrong that they were spending money.
Why is this happening, Jeff? Like why are, it's 2020, it's almost 2021. Why are dealerships still not taking social serious? Why are they not spending any time on their Facebook page? Why are they still lacking at all this? And what would be a solution other than just hiring some company to do it for you? Because the reality is, once you hire, a lot of times if you just go out there and hire a service, you don't have that boots on the ground. You don't have that person. Again, like you said, you got to have sort of an array of different type of posts. But I always find, some type of posts that sort of bring transparency among the dealership, your employees, and all that good stuff. And it's so hard if you're hiring an outside service to be able to do that. How do you guys combat that?
Can I jump in on that question real quick, guys? Because I feel like that goes further than just managed social. That goes into any managed service.
Yeah.
So, there are some things where you can't hire enough people to do niche things. And at the same time, when you do make that investment, and at Checkered Flag, we hired Christine. She was in all of our videos. She did a lot of our social posts. Now she does it at my company. But when she left Checkered Flag, and she left because she wanted to be a stay-at-home mother, had nothing to do with the job itself, just she wanted to raise her children for a few years. You lose that. You lose that personality. You lose, everything that person created for you in that.
Well, they almost became a brand. They almost became
their own brand.
Become your brand. Yeah.
In that case, yeah. And you have to be in order to interact with other people. So there are some advantages to managed services where you're not willing to make, a long-term investment in staff on hand or have the talent on hand to manage it or whatever it is. Hiring an outside vendor to at least keep a foundation of something alive for you is great. And then if you ever get somebody who's interested in it, then they could work alongside with that vendor and make it that much more special.
Well, that's where I wanted to go with that. Yeah.
I'm so glad you said that. And that's the exact approach we take, right? Not every GM has the time nor the interest. Look, I self-admittedly told you at the beginning of the show, I was resistant to social media. And I ran one of the largest website companies in the country for almost a decade, right? That was a service that we provided and I wanted nothing to do with it, right? My salespeople sold it, they provided it, right? It added a lot of value, but because I didn't fully understand it, I didn't want to immerse myself in it. So that's the same seat that a lot of GMs and owners sit in today. And Alex, you made a great point. I see brands out there, right, within dealerships that their people are arguably becoming as big, if not bigger, than the dealership itself. That's not a bad thing, right? But in order for us as a provider, or for that matter, any social media company or advertising agency to truly be successful, it's about a cooperative partnership in time with the dealer. No one's going to know your local market better than you. No one's going to know what's going to help you move more cars in your market than you. We can only take best practices that we learn across hundreds of dealers across the country and bring them to you and share those ideas with you to see if they work and see if they fit for you. So Jeff, back to your question, why does it happen? Dealers have gotten used to checking the box, right? The manufacturer gets off their ass, right? Because now they're doing social, or they get off them because now they're doing chat, or they get off their back because now they're doing digital retailing. But they're not focused on the who, what, and why, and what does it really drive. Facebook's put a tremendous amount of money and resources in developing an automotive team with the sole goal of generating more value for dealers to see it. But again, if you don't take the time to learn it, right, there are more than 15 different ad types in social media. I'll bet you put 10 dealers on the phone with me randomly, and if I ask them what ad types they're running, not a one of them can answer it. They can't tell me what kind of impression share they're getting. They can't tell me what kind of cost per click through they're getting, or how many leads they're generating, or how many sales can be contributed to it. They're doing it because, one, no one's sharing that data with them. And if they are, it's lost in one of the 50 reports each and every month that they get that goes into an inbox that's already overfull with all kinds of other things. So first and foremost, take the time to learn the basics, right? Get someone independently to put an eye on it and tell you what you're missing. Facebook gives you all these wonderful tools. And sometimes it's as simple as having your photos with the right resolution. I can't tell you the number of Facebook pages I go to and the photos don't fit the screen, or the tabs are not enabled, right? Or, hey, I'm doing a really great job posting content. Yeah, you are. And guess what? No one's engaging it. Don't give me a statement. Ask me a question. If I said to you, Alex, do you like the new school M5 or the previous generation M5? And why? Why do you like that generation versus this one? Now I've prompted Alex to have a dialogue, right? Well, now Alex is having a conversation with me. And then Alex's friends that are following him are going to chime in. Oh, you're a BMW guy. Those things suck, right? I'm an AMG guy, or I'm this. But now you've created a dialogue, a discourse, a discussion. And that's really what dealers need to do. It's not about a frequency of content. It's about the quality of the content. Are you asking a question? Are people engaging? And frankly, do you know what it's doing? My bigger discussion would be, if you don't know what your social media is doing, you need to figure it out and you need to ask. Because it doesn't work the same way. And where dealers make this mistake constantly, let me tell you something. Paid search in Google could not be more different. The API to Google and the API to Facebook are a 180 from each other. They don't operate the same. And they've been conditioned to learn X amount of dollars, and the more money I spend in Google, the higher my placement's going to be and the more leads it's going to generate for me, right? That does not equate in Facebook. Just like likes don't equate. Just like boosted posts, guess what, folks? Boosted posts don't work.
That was my next question. Why?
Since
Why don't
when?
they work?
Well,
It's
actually,
just waste?
wait, so they definitely used to work earlier this year. When did that stop being something that worked?
Yeah.
John,
So
I'll use that one since you deal with it more than I do.
yeah, here's I'm going to just take one step back and answer Jeff's question about why don't they spend more time? Why don't we as dealers spend more time? One is because we're unsure how it works, and the fear of the unknown kind of scares us all. And being a former GM, I get it, right? I'm in that same boat. I put myself in the exact same boat as everybody else on this call, right? I don't know enough about it, so I'm going to gravitate towards what I do know about. And until I figure that out somewhere down the road, we'll figure that out. Number two is we technically don't put the person who knows the most about Facebook or social media in charge of social media. It happens to be somebody who has a Facebook account or an Instagram account, and I just graduated college and I'm your person. That's fine, but that person should be educated and trained on the proper best practices of social media, especially for automotive. because what may work for medical may not work for automotive, right? So just because you have a Facebook account doesn't mean you should be handling social for the dealership. The third thing I would say is, for everybody on the call, get yourself a business continuity social plan today. What that means is you have literally credentials for every single channel that you should: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Google My Business, LinkedIn, Snapchat, you name it. Get all your credentials and get them somewhere safe and make sure they all work. Because I can't tell you how many times we spend helping Facebook or helping a dealer get their access back to their Facebook account, or I don't have access to my Twitter account. Can you help me? These are assets of the store. They really are assets of the store. And for you not to have control of that because 5 years ago, somebody decided they're going to set up your Twitter account and they're no longer there, you should not be held liable for what that person did 5 years ago. So I call it a business continuity social plan. So that if I was in charge of it and I were to leave because I hit the lottery, Jeff Kirshner would come pick it up and say, you know what? I am good to go. I am good to go. I have all my channels. I'm ready to rock and roll. So that's something I would absolutely, try to look at today if I was running a store socially again. So boosted posts. So if you're not running paid social advertising, boost away, right? It's just boosting. But if you're running a paid social ad campaign that has all these custom audiences in it for sales and service, right? So we should be talking to those people in their particular market for their particular vehicle for what their interests are with paid social media advertising. If I boost it, I'm just think of this. If you boost it and you're doing paid advertising, it's Jeff Kirshner going to the auction lane with a paddle from John's store and Jeff's store. And when the car rolls through, he holds up both paddles, right? You've literally effectively bid against yourself, right? Doesn't really make sense ROI wise for your store or your money. Now, if you are not doing the paid ads, feel free to boost, right? You can kind of get some audience targeting out of it, but it's not really great. But if you're doing paid social media advertising, literally in the Facebook ad network, Instagram ad network, our recommendation would be don't boost. Make a campaign in paid advertising so you can track that through all your other business management or business manager activities and collectively look at your ROI. So that's the two distinctions. It's not that you shouldn't boost. You shouldn't boost if you're doing paid ads already, right?
So,
and we look at those metrics all the time.
Is that advice strictly for car dealers?
I can tell you this, we don't really work outside of RV, power sports, marine, and auto, right? So maybe Jeff can answer that one better, but I can tell you certainly if it has tires and wheels and a motor, it definitely applies to that.
Okay, fair enough.
Alex, I would be reluctant because I don't know the answer to that.
I bring it up because it's a big part of what DealerRefresh does. So.
Yeah, you would have to look at your individual performance and your metrics. And the other thing that gets missed oftentimes is dealers leveraging their DMS data and first-party data. Audience, if you looked at our P&L statement and you saw the expense to running social, obviously the vast majority of the money goes directly to Facebook. But in order to be successful, you need those specialty audiences, right? There is no better audience than your own first-party data. And so many dealers don't leverage it, right? So if you're spending thousands a month in Facebook ads, talk to your provider, right? Talk to someone that can help you leverage that first-party data, because that data is the cleanest, most purest data that you're ever going to get. Third-party data is just meant as a supplement, right? It's just meant to the cherry on the top of the sundae, if you will. But that first-party data is critical to your success.
And Facebook will allow you to apply attribution to it. So you can find out whether that first-party data that you uploaded to Facebook to target directly actually did something. And
the offline conversion is a good piece for it, right? It won't tell you the name, but it can certainly tell you back how many sales and service records or transactions are attributed back to those campaigns. Because as a GM, that's what they want to know, right? I spend X amount of dollars. how many vehicles did I sell, or how many more ROs did I put through the shop? It wasn't how many more impressions did I get, or how much more frequency, or how much more reach did I get. It's, did I really actually move the needle, for sales and service doing that, using those ad dollars? And that's where you kind of lose that attribution model when you start to boost all your posts.
And thank you for
I
the
never thought about
knowledge,
that,
George
gentlemen.
Minnie.
And
See, we
I'm
have
trying
any
to
questions?
catch up on
Frequently,
George Minnie's comment here. Hold on a second.
I got to tell you, and I was going to say, George, the things that you can learn from the people on this forum are incredible, right? So I watched George post something the other day about GMB, Google My Business, right? And I was like, man, he's on it, right? But as a dealer, how do I put that all in? Like John's talking, Jeff's talking, and the other Jeff's talking, Alex is talking, George is talking. How do I put that all into a best practice so at the dealership, I know that that's worth my time to go do, right? And I think that's the key for dealers on this call is, how do I focus on the things that will move the needle the best and the most for me, short term and long term, right? Because it's got to be both, right? If we're doing short term stuff, at some point the wheels will come off the wagon, a year down the road, because we didn't set it up the right way. And getting back to what Jeff Clark said, we would never build a house on a shaky foundation, right? None of us would do that. We just never would do that. But I see so many times, friends of mine, dealers that want to jump into paid social advertising and really put it on top of a foundation that's crumbling and say, don't worry about it, John. I'll fix my Facebook page. I'll get the hours figured out. I'll put the right contact information. I'll do some posts. I'll get that all done. But they don't, right? I'm telling you, if you do the foundation right and it's solid, and you want to build up paid social advertising, right, on a solid foundation, it'll work much, much better. But if you don't do that, at some point along the line, you're going to get a little creep. That wall's going to be out of shape because that foundation started to crumble on you. And you got to start back at square one and fix that foundation.
So have a good, solid, organic foundation.
Yeah, I'd say start with an assessment, right?
That's it. There's another piece of it that we didn't touch on today, but should be on the minds of every dealer, and that's reputation management. So we look at social rep management and organic social as kind of the trifecta. If you think about,
that's always been my backbone for social media.
Yeah, look, your best clients, your best customers, your highest grossing customers are always going to come from those people that know you, right? Manage that reputation. I can't tell you the number of times I see dealers when we set them up that say, I only want to see the negative posts. Really? Well, what about the good posts? Do you want to respond to them? No, I'm good. Really? So someone took the time, because reviews come in two forms. What are they? Praise and ridicule. Very, very rarely do you get anything in between. So if someone took the time to write you a very positive review, yet you're telling me as a provider, don't worry about it, just send me the negative ones, you've completely disregarded and sent the wrong message to those people that took the time. Even if it's as simple as a thank you from Jeff here at Hagerstown Mercedes-Benz. We appreciate your business. Thank you for the kind things you had to say about our dealership. So it really does boil down to looking at those. And look, we're working on some pretty exciting things. We hope to be back in the spring with you guys for another show to show you what we've done with the new ad platform and a partnership that we've formed that really does focus on, at the point of sale, getting that review, right? Getting that customer right then, right there while they're in the moment, to not only support you and your dealership, but more importantly, to build your network as a salesperson, right? We need to do a better job, because social media is so personal, right? Let's do a better job of helping those salespeople that are out there that are doing 10, 15 cars a month that want to do 20 and 30 to build more of their own network. So we're going to be bringing something to the market soon that will better help the dealer manage how reviews happen, help them cut the dependency on third parties, right? Third parties are a great thing. Please don't take that as a jab if you're a vendor and listening to this. But nothing's better than to get your own reviews. Then everything else is icing on the cake.
So in the meantime, until spring comes around, if anyone wanted to get in touch with you two.
Well, and you also mentioned some type of playbook in the works, which I got sort of a sneak preview of. When's that going to be available, and how would we could start a thread over in the forums where someone could comment in the Facebook comments as well if they wanted to get a copy of your new playbook.
So we have where Facebook did their masterfully written, by the way.
Yeah, theirs is a
Facebook
little prettier than yours.
Well,
They've
they
got
have
more
a few more
resources.
resources than what we have. But hey, maybe I'll call Zuckerberg up and see if I can't borrow some of his resources.
Okay.
But we took the time to write an automotive playbook specific for reputation management and organic social, which was a big part of what we wanted today's show to be focused on. So much of that is being missed. And guess what, folks? It doesn't really cost anything other than your time or having your current provider or someone else fulfill that for you. So I'll leave that to John because he's going to be the one that's going to be supplying that out to your folks. So John, why don't you share with the listeners and team how they would go about getting that automotive playbook and getting an assessment and getting in contact with us?
Yeah. I think first of all, the automotive playbook is great for every single store, right? If you want personalized swim lanes that we call it at the end, which really breaks out daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly at the store level, we do that for all the clients. But the playbook itself is literally for anybody. If you're new to the business or old to the business and just want to find out by channel what those best practices are, this playbook goes into it and leaves you little sections where you could add little notes, right? It is a living, breathing document. So as we have different changes or a particular channel has a different change, we add that in, right? Because it changes so often. And there's no document that should live in a library like an encyclopedia in the digital world. We have to make sure it's available to be updated and always there. So we'll give you the idea how to do that. The next thing is the assessment. So we call it a social health checkup assessment. We do it for every store. And I believe Jeff Clark, anybody who's on the call today or hears and watches the forum, it has the ability to take advantage of that. We'll do a complimentary assessment. It'll compare your store to another dealer that you tell us to compare it to. And it'll go through all of your social channels one by one by one by one and match it up against the KPIs and the playbook. And at the end of the day, it's up to you at the dealership level to decide what to do, to take action or not take action, to do it yourself, ask for help, or have us do it. But we wanted to give out these tools to the dealership so that if you wanted us to do it for you and hand the keys back over to you, you could do that too. If you just got somebody at the store who's really great and wants to know how to do it themselves the right way, do this the right way. Take the assessment, match it up with the playbook, and then build out your own strategy based on those things. And make sure you put that business continuity sheet together, because without those credentials, you'll be calling one of us up at some point and saying, can you help us out and get those credentials that are out there? So if you want, I don't know what the best way to do it, Jeff or Alex, but you can always reach out to me directly. You can email me, you can text me, you can call me, let me know what you're looking for in terms of an assessment, who to compare it to. And we'll give the playbook out that Alex is scrolling through today out to them so you can add it to the forum. The only thing I would ask, if you have any questions on it, feel free to call us, right? If you said, hey, John, hey, Jeff, I'm struggling with this part of it. I don't really know how to make, should I add multiple pages for Google My Business? Should I do it or should I not? Should I do something with Twitter? Should I do it? Should I have a LinkedIn channel? Does it really work for car dealers? I think Jeff and I are an open book. We'd be more than happy to talk to you and, share with you what we found, working with thousands of dealers. And certainly if it makes sense to partner with us, we'd love to do that as well.
Sounds great, gentlemen. Yeah, we'll get a thread started over in the forums. I'll have your contact information, and anyone can post over there and get a copy of the playbook.
Excellent.
Perfect.
Alex, it was a pleasure having you guys here.
Always.
I think we're supposed to say that.
Yeah.
Well, it's fun for me. I've known you both for so long. This kind of feels like a fraternity reunion, if you will. There's a lot of history between all of us, hopefully without the keg stands and the other shenanigans. But It's certainly been a good time, and we appreciate your having us, and we look forward to coming back in the spring and sharing more.
So
You got it.
On what you're talking about there, Jeff, should we say in a post-COVID, more Vegas world again? And
Yeah.
Listen, yes, in a post-COVID Vegas, Orlando, Dallas environment, it's much better than staring
Travel the
at
whole
the
country with that.
every day, right?
Wow. La Jolla.
Perfect.
Just had California in as well.
yeah,
Is that it all?
totally.
Newport Beach,
Newport Beach.
whatever.
Manhattan
Yeah.
Beach.
Way south of San Francisco.
Yeah. Well, not too far south. John and I have been known to get lost in Napa Valley and purposefully stay there for a while.
Yep,
So
you know what, Napa.
Once or twice.
Yep.
Perfect.
All right, guys. Thanks
Makes a good
for
Yeah.
coming on today, and we look forward to the next level of Social Dealer in the spring.
Yep, we're excited. Thanks, guys. Be safe and happy holidays.
Thank you.
Yep.
Bye, guys. We'll see you.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Take care.